Utah, September 10th, 2025. Midday. The sun hangs high above the university campus. Students move between buildings, some carrying books, others stopping to talk. The air feels ordinary, routine, a day like any other. In the university courtyard, a stage is being set up. A white tent, speakers, flags. People begin to gather slowly. Some arrive out of curiosity, some out of support, and some simply happen to pass by. At first glance, nothing seems out of the ordinary. There is no panic, no chaos, no reason for concern. But it is precisely in moments like these, when everything appears calm, that the darkest tragedies begin. To understand what truly happened that day, we need to go back 24 hours. 24 hours before the murder. Approximately one day before the shooting, Charlie Kirk arrived in Utah ahead of his scheduled speaking engagement at Utah Valley University. Despite recent protests and a petition opposing his appearance, Kirk was confident the event would be successful. He believed in confronting opposition through debate and remained firm on holding the talk. That afternoon, he met with local Turning Point USA organizers to review logistics and discussion topics. While the mood around him was upbeat, both Kirk and his team were aware that his appearances often attracted controversy, making security a constant concern. At the same time, Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old former college student from Utah, was preparing for something far darker. For more than a week, Robinson had secretly planned to assassinate Kirk. Driven by intense hatred toward Kirk's political views, he believed Kirk was spreading harmful rhetoric and convinced himself that killing him was necessary. 24 hours before the attack, Robinson finalized his plan. He inspected a bolt-action rifle that belonged to his grandfather and selected a rooftop vantage point on campus that provided a clear line of sight to the outdoor venue. Before leaving home, he wrote a note and hid it beneath his keyboard, stating chillingly that he intended to take the opportunity to kill Charlie Kirk. The note would remain undiscovered until later. 20 hours before the murder, by late afternoon, Kirk was in Orem, familiarizing himself with UVU's campus. He walked through the fountain courtyard, where a stage and white tent were being assembled. Thousands of attendees were expected, which encouraged him despite security concerns. In private meetings, Kirk's staff discussed vulnerabilities with campus officials. The outdoor setting, surrounding buildings, and lack of metal detectors were noted risks. Still, there was little time to change the venue. Kirk focused on refining his talking points, especially on controversial issues like gun violence and free speech. Meanwhile, Robinson conducted final reconnaissance. He drove past the campus, carefully observing the Losi Center, a multi-story building overlooking the courtyard. Disguised as an ordinary student, he noted access points, including stairwells and a rooftop hatch. He rehearsed his route mentally and later double-checked his weapon and equipment in his car. He had also purchased extra ammunition and dark clothing. As evening approached, Robinson felt grimly satisfied that everything was ready. 15 hours before the murder. That evening, Kirk returned to his hotel. He spoke with his wife, Erica, and video called his young children. In the brief call, he smiled and promised to return home soon. He told Erica the next day's appearance mattered to him and that he wanted to demonstrate the possibility of civil debate. His security team reviewed the next day's schedule and any potential threats. Aside from online hostility and the earlier petition, there were no specific warnings. Still, they emphasized monitoring nearby buildings and rooftops. Kirk went to bed around 10 p.m., unaware of the danger ahead. Across town, Robinson remained awake. In his apartment, he drafted what seemed like a farewell message to his partner, but never sent it. Instead, he laid out his outfit: a black long-sleeve shirt with a U.S. flag, a dark baseball cap, and large sunglasses chosen to conceal his identity while blending in with the crowd. He checked his rifle and scope repeatedly and scrolled through Kirk's social media, fueling his anger. Before midnight, he set an alarm and tried to sleep. The note under his keyboard remained in place 10 hours before the murder. In the early morning hours, most of Orem slept. Charlie Kirk slept peacefully in his hotel, resting for the day ahead, unaware it would be his last night. Robinson, however, lay awake, adrenaline racing. He replayed his plan again and again. Any hesitation was replaced by determination. Eventually, he fell into a restless sleep for a few hours, with his rifle and backpack ready by the door. 5 hours before the murder. As dawn broke, Kirk began his normal routine. He reviewed his notes and watched morning news coverage mentioning his upcoming appearance, including both supporters and planned protests. He ate breakfast, joked with his team about tough questions, and dressed in a navy blue suit with an American flag pin. Confident in his mission, he left for campus. At the same time, Robinson put his plan into motion. He left his apartment in a gray Dodge Challenger and drove toward UVU early, knowing the campus would soon fill with people. Around 8:30 a.m., surveillance cameras captured a man matching his description arriving on campus. To avoid attention, Robinson initially wore different clothes and carried his rifle disassembled in a backpack. Later, he discreetly changed into his planned outfit. Calm but focused, he waited as time ticked down. 1 hour before the murder. By late morning, tension and excitement filled the campus. Kirk arrived about an hour before the event and was escorted through a side entrance. Roughly 3,000 people gathered near the outdoor stage, many waving American flags and wearing political merchandise. The white event tent displayed slogans from Kirk's tour. He reviewed Q&A procedures, greeted guests, and interacted with the crowd, appearing relaxed and confident. Unseen, Robinson made his final approach. At 11:51 a.m., cameras recorded him walking toward the Losay Center. He entered through a side door, climbed a stairwell, and accessed the rooftop. By around 12:15 p.m., he lay prone behind a low barrier, assembled his rifle, loaded a round, and steadied himself. From approximately 125 to 130 meters away, he had a clear view of Kirk on stage. He disengaged the safety and waited. The moment of the murder. The event began at noon with applause. After speaking for about 20 minutes, Kirk entered a Q&A session. The atmosphere was tense but orderly. Around 12:20 p.m., while answering a question about gun violence, Kirk uttered his final words, "Counting or not counting gang violence?" A single rifle shot rang out. The bullet struck Kirk in the left side of his neck. He instinctively reached for the wound as blood poured out and collapsed onto the stage. For a brief moment, the crowd froze. Then panic erupted. People screamed and ducked for cover as security and police rushed toward him. A radio call went out reporting shots fired and that Kirk was down. On the rooftop, Robinson saw Kirk fall. Without hesitation, he fled, moving quickly across rooftops before dropping to the ground. Amid the chaos, no one stopped him. He blended into the fleeing crowd and escaped the campus before authorities could secure the area. 1 hour after the murder, Kirk was rushed by ambulance to Timpanogos Regional Hospital and taken into emergency surgery. The injury was catastrophic, and doctors struggled to stop the bleeding. On campus, UVU was placed on lockdown as police and FBI agents secured the scene and questioned witnesses. Early reports were confused. At 12:47 p.m., an alert mistakenly announced a suspect in custody. But this was later corrected. The shooter was still at large. Videos of the shooting spread rapidly online. Families frantically contacted loved ones who had attended the event. Supporters gathered outside the hospital, praying. Although Kirk would later be pronounced dead, the public did not yet know his fate. Only fear and uncertainty remained. A massive manhunt followed. Robinson's rifle was found abandoned near campus, wrapped in a towel, and DNA evidence linked it to him. On September 11th, the FBI released surveillance images of a person of interest. Robinson's mother recognized him and confronted her son. With family and a former sheriff's deputy acting as intermediaries, Robinson agreed to surrender. He turned himself in that evening. In custody, Robinson admitted his motive in messages to his partner, stating he targeted Kirk because he had enough of his hatred. Prosecutors charged him with capital aggravated murder and announced they would seek the death penalty. Evidence included his written note, text confession, and forensic proof. Charlie Kirk's death sent shockwaves across the nation, highlighting the rising threat of political violence. Vigils were held nationwide, and even some opponents condemned the attack. Kirk's widow publicly forgave the shooter and called for peace. The tragedy became a stark reminder of how radicalization and small security failures can converge into a moment that changes history forever.